Hey everyone, thanks for joining the Admin Show. And I have Subhash Kak as my guest. And today we are going to talk about AI. So, sir, can you please give a brief description about AI and yourself as well?
Well, AI, of course, is artificial intelligence, and I have been working on AI for a long time. And basically, what AI does is does decision making, and that decision making is required. For example, in a robot, when should a robot lift its arm or hold something? So there is some decision making being done.
The robot figure has learned to independently perform tasks by simply observing humans. General-purpose humanoid robots are expected to carry out various actions using tools, devices, and methods employed by people. They need to be flexible and adapt to dynamic work environments. Robots that require constant programming commands to perform new tasks are impractical. The American startup figure has claimed that their robot, Figure 01, can now observe how people perform tasks, analyze them, and then autonomously carry out these tasks. For example, after 10 hours of video learning, the android could independently make coffee. The android responds to verbal commands, opens the top compartment of the coffee machine, places a coffee capsule inside, closes the compartment, and presses the button. The person who requested coffee then retrieves the finished beverage independently. The key aspect here is not the task itself, but the fact that the robot spent 10 hours learning from videos and can now perform tasks autonomously. A new autonomous action has been added to its library, which can be transferred to another figure robot optimize the industry and the labor market. The developer of the renowned GPT language models OpenAI invested in the Norwegian startup 1X, formerly known as Haloti Robotics. The startup is building the humanoid robot Neo to understand how artificial intelligence can take shape in an anthropomorphic body. In turn, Google DeepMind announced the Robotics Transformer 2, the first visual language and action model that enables robots to perform new tasks without special training. Similar to how language models learn general ideas and concepts from network data, RT2 uses text and images from the internet to comprehend various real-world concepts and transform this knowledge into instructions for robots. This will allow the creation of robots that can easily adapt to any situation. Let's discuss the impact the creation of the latest generation humanoid robots with artificial intelligence will have on jobs. In 2023, robotics continued its rapid development. Process automation reached a new level, leading to increased use of robots in factories and warehouses. Artificial intelligence significantly influenced robot manufacturing. Developers introduced numerous humanoid androids that are becoming more lifelike and versatile. It is anticipated that in the coming years, automation will lead to the reduction of certain jobs. According to the World Economic Forum's 2023 report, robotics will predominantly be implemented in the following sectors: electronics, energy technologies, utilities, and consumer goods. For instance, Amazon's ambitious initiative to integrate digit robots into its operations raised concerns about the implications for its 1.5 million employees. However, the company assures that there is nothing to worry about as humans remain indispensable to the company's work. According to a research and markets report, the warehouse automation market grew from $17.32 billion in 2022 to $19.78 billion in 2023. The forecast suggests continued growth over the next few years, reaching $33.59 billion by 2027. Despite the growing popularity of warehouse automation solutions, about 80% of warehouses worldwide lack any form of automation. The International Association for Automation Development claims that using robots in companies has advantages. Firstly, employees are relieved from performing monotonous or dangerous tasks in their daily work. Secondly, it enables companies to maintain competitiveness and production speed. Thirdly, it can help address the labor shortage issue. About 60% of companies in the information and technology services sector expect robots not only to take jobs away, but also to create new ones in the next 5 years. However, the actual outcomes will only be revealed with time.
Also required where you have a lot of data. And if you have a lot of data, how do you make sense of it? Of course, you could have a lot of people work on the data. For example, you're driving a car. You can also have autonomous car. The autonomous car will look at all through its sensory input. It will look at where the traffic is going and be able to avoid any obstacles or make sure that it doesn't cross over to the other lane. So in fact, this technology is fairly well established, and you have some cars which have self-driving features in it. Although, for example, most famously Tesla, but a lot of people who own Tesla would be too scared of using it.
We have this Tesla Model 3. It should be obvious to anyone who's driving version 12 in a Tesla that it is only a matter of time before we exceed the reliability of humans, and not much time at that. And we're really headed for an electric vehicle and autonomous future. Gasoline cars that are not autonomous will be like riding a horse or using a flip phone, and that will become very obvious in hindsight. We are going to drive this down the Las Vegas Boulevard without any interactions from a human. Las Vegas Boulevard and turn left. That's what we did last time for the video with Tesla. But if we have to take over here, we're just going to show it. We're not trying to make Tesla look good or bad. We're just going to show what it does in this specific scenario. Driving is not perfect. Even as a human, you have to make decisions. So see how good AI is. All right, GoPros are rolling on here, on the top. All right, we're gonna stop right here in the lane. Okay. And then full self-driving. He's in it. It is engaged. It is not moving. There we go. There we go. She's driving. She's driving. Everybody, we're moving.
Hands are off, foot is off.
Why did it take so long?
I don't know.
That was funny. This is the part that was really tricky last time, making this left-hand turn. It's 3 lanes that turn left onto Las Vegas Boulevard. This is not an easy move for a human or a full self-driving computer. It's already doing so much better. So last time when we turned left, it almost cut off a car. Like it turned right into it, and we had to take over right away. And that was the early version.
I'm suddenly getting more nervous when you're talking like that. Like, this is such a wide left turn. Holy crap.
Look at all the cars. Let's see. Okay, we're going. This is the tricky part. There's no white lines in the road. Oh, that's really good.
Okay.
That's really good.
And we're right on line.
Impressive.
I knew it could do it this whole time.
Oh, it's signaling. It's going in the right lane.
Changing the line.
Artificial intelligence is taking over the world and driving these cars. That is smooth.
I had no doubt.
Even though they think it works perfectly, but they would still rather hold the steering with their hands. Now, that's one side. The other side of AI is that you can generate images or text or speech, and that's very mind-boggling. You can tell the prompt in the platform. You can say, please create a picture of ancient India, this lady in front of the temple. And based on all the data it has, it will be able to create a very plausible picture.
Yeah,
And
Copilot, the
yeah.
app, right? Yeah, I use that.
Yeah. Yeah. And more scaringly, you can even do applications such as make you speak, even though you haven't. It will be your voice, and it will appear as if you made that conversation. So in other words, it's called deep fake.
Mm-hmm.
And
there are ridiculous AI videos. The voice is perfect.
I saw an ad the other day on Instagram. It was Donald Trump. I knew it was AI though because he was promoting someone's program and product. He was behind a booth as if he was speaking to the country. Sounds exactly like him.
Where's Hunter?
Looks exactly like him. But he's talking about someone's product.
Do you know how long they have to record your voice before they can copy it?
How long?
3 seconds.
Yeah, insane.
And so you can play around with it, and some of it, of course, is going to lead to crime. For example, somebody could make you say certain things which would implicate you in something bad, and therefore you also need further AI technology which would tell you which one is actually correct and which one is not. And then, so this is one side to it. The other side is that you can also make it use, in a way such that it can actually solve important or help in the solution of important problems. For example, you do drug design. Mm-hmm. In drug design, you have to try out many different candidate drugs, mm-hmm. but perhaps the AI system can shorten that process, mm-hmm. or flying aeroplanes. And so on. You can think of literally anything, or writing poetry. In fact, if you go to ChatGPT, which is a platform right now, you can ask it, you can say, hey, please write a poem on Dallas, Texas. And in 1 second, it'll send you something which will sound quite plausible. So the other danger is that students in their classrooms can use it to do all their homework. So how do you, as an instructor, check what your students are giving to you is really their own work? Lots of issues, lots of potential, and some problems.
Yeah. So I've tried to use ChatGPT, but actually the data is 2 years old. Like recent data is not available. So if I search about a restaurant, they will tell something about a restaurant that is even closed. So some problems is still there. Yeah.
But that might be because ChatGPT and other AI platforms have two versions.
Okay.
One which is free,
Oh.
uh, and the other for businesses, which is not free. The businesses may have to spend a few $1,000s a month as
Yeah.
a subscription service.
Okay.
So you can only play with it. You cannot obtain that much of information from it unless you're prepared to invest some money in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So and you spoke about what are the major artificial intelligence breakthroughs and implications. You can also talk about like what will happen, like the jobs, like say, people are developers, or if an artificial intelligence can generate the code, then how relevant are the software engineers, or just program managers, or anything like in the IT world.
Well, development of the code is probably not that much to worry about at this moment, but so many other jobs. For example, you are in the advertising business, and in advertising, you have to create new images, text, etc. Well, they don't have to have so many people doing all of that. They have a up-to-date version of some generative AI platform, and it'll create that at least as the first draft. So instead of having 10 people doing it, you might need only one person doing it, right? Or in finance for investing, or what else can we think of? Perhaps in architecture, it can create certain designs as the first draft. So you don't need 10 people. You probably need only two people. Or certainly, um, where else? Well, schools, of course, that's the danger side because students will be cheating on most of their work, right?
But in
And
the classroom, if you're giving an exam inside the classroom, then probably they can cheat in the homework. But when you're in the
cheat in
classroom,
the
yeah.
right, or in the classroom itself. Well, if the instructor is not very careful, everything is on everybody's fingertips, right? On their phones, smartphones. You can get any amount of information right away, and so a lot of issues, a lot of jobs will go away forever, and that's going to have the economy will take a big hit. For example, it's estimated that 50-60% of all the jobs in the US, which is a developed economy, are transportation related jobs.
Mhm.
So if you had autonomous cars, autonomous taxis, autonomous trucks, then all those jobs will go away. 50% of the people are immediately rendered jobless, right?
Okay, so what they will do, does the government has any alternate plans for these people who will lose the jobs? That will
Well,
be chaos, right? Then there will
they're
be
thinking of two things.
crimes and there will be robbery. How do you
Th-
prevent all that?
that is already happening. Go to California, look at how much of robberies take place in stores. And in fact, they even changed the laws that so long as what you have robbed is less than $950, they're not going to press charges, right? Or look at the number of homeless people. In the US, there are about 500,000 homeless people. In California, in the city of LA itself, only about 70,000. Or look at San Francisco, there's tremendous crime, right? So there will be crime, and
How do
there
you
will be
deal with it?
alienation.
What is your what is your thought process then how to deal with if AI is coming and is causing is doing good things but has a negative side? How do you deal with don't you think we should plan about that?
Well, what people are saying, economists are saying that people who are rendered jobless, give them some money, and they call it UBI, Universal Basic Income. You give everybody $1,000, right? And they can, it's just basic for you to survive, and maybe a room or whatever. And then people can spend the entire day watching Netflix movies and order some pizza and maybe choose some gummies, which are illegal now. Gummies meaning
Drugs?
cannabis, right?
Okay.
Weed. And so that's what they're going to do. But let's look at it from another perspective.
Yeah.
People don't know that population growth has almost gone to zero in most countries.
Mhm.
And actual population numbers have started to go down. For example, in the next 80 years, they expect the population of China to become one half of what it is now. Right now, it's 1.4 billion people. By the end of the century, it's expected to be only 700 million, and maybe much less. So somehow, people know that jobs are going to go away. And then there is also technology which empowers you. Um, People are also alienated from their jobs, they hate them. And then there is so much of entertainment which totally absorbs your attention. So what's happening? People, that is what is called the total fertility rate. And you need the fertility rate of 2.1 for population to be stable. 2.1 meaning husband and wife, they have 2.1 children, because there is not equal men and women, right? So you need 2.1. Now, in many countries, the rate has fallen to as low as 0.7. And what does that mean? In this country is South Korea, which means 100 Koreans will make only 35 children.
Mhm.
So one generation, 100 will become 35. 35, the second generation will be 35, 0.35 into 0.35, which will be 10. So in two generations, the population will become 1/10. You see that? So in Korea, it's 0.7. In China, it's 1.1. In Russia, I think it's also 1.2 or 1.3. Most of Europe, it's 1.5 or 1.4. In Italy, it's 1.1. Spain is 1.1. So the population of the native people in these countries is collapsing. So what are they doing? They're getting migrants,
Mhm.
right? From countries where the population has not started to fall, like Middle East or Africa. But that's going to have its own problems. First of all, there is a cultural mismatch.
Mhm.
And they don't, people who come from another culture, they don't know how exactly, what are the codes. For example, and do various crimes. And as you know, Sweden, for example,
Mhm.
Sweden 40 years ago had the lowest rape rate in the world.
Mhm.
Right now, it's the highest. It's, I think, the second highest in the world, right? So there's crime against women, there are robberies because of the cultural mismatch. Some of these people are not able to, and they don't have the skills. They haven't gone to school or college. They don't have the skills for a in post-industrial economy. So many of them are on dole, meaning they just get some subsistence money from the government. So it's going to create a whole lot of problems. And at some point, there could even be civil war. You have, let's say, European country, and then and they expect uh, certain outside groups or religious groups to become 20-30% in the next 20-30 years. So maybe these 20-30% might say, well, we want our own country. We want this country to be partitioned. So, and that could happen. We don't know. And we don't know how the current populations of a certain culture. Now, it doesn't mean that all migrants don't assimilate. There are some migrants who assimilate very well, like Indians and the Chinese. They have no problem. Wherever they go, they work hard, and they are left alone, and they leave everybody alone. So those ones do assimilate very well. But there are certain other migrants who refuse to assimilate because their culture is very different. So there will be all those problems as well. But what will also happen, there are various, projections. Demographers can only project based on what is happening right now. For example, the fertility rate of India has also dropped to 2.0, which means in 20 years, after one more generation, India's population will also start falling like the Chinese population. So now the whole question is, how fast will the world population fall? Or is it even possible that it might fall so rapidly that there would be a collapse? The countries will become empty.
Mhm.
As is happening, as I'm telling you, in South Korea. South Korea even has programs, governmental programs, to encourage women to have children, to have families. But now what has happened is a lot of women say, "Man, we don't want to have children."
Mhm.
Or they even in Japan, one of the biggest things going on is that young men and women both have become asexual. They say we are not interested
Mhm.
in becoming friends with the people of the other sex. We just want to be left alone. We just want to play computer games the whole night. As you know, that is the biggest thing going on. I've never played these games, but apparently the popular games right now are tremendously addicting. So you can have addictions of games, computer games. So you don't want personal relationships. And then you have drugs,
Mhm.
and drugs are hugely, a huge factor. Let's say in the US, last year, 120,000 Americans died of drug overdose. 120,000, that's a huge, huge number.
This is most happening in colleges, right?
No, no, drug deaths are happening all across. They are not happening in colleges. They're happening mostly amongst the people in their 20s or 30s, and some of them are married. Some of them have good jobs. What happens is that when you get addicted, and there is a lot of illegal networks of drug supply.
Mhm.
So let's say you're addicted to fentanyl, or there is a very powerful drug called trank. You may have seen pictures from Philadelphia, and these people are bent downwards, and they are like zombies, and they can be in that state for hours. So if you are addicted, let's not say trank, but let's say uh, fentanyl, and
Mhm.
you order a supply, and you have a job. Nobody knows that you are addicted. You have a family, you have a child or two, and then this supplier
Don't you think that
gives you.
these drugs in US is illegal? How are they
Yeah,
getting?
yeah, these are illegal. So, but there are supply networks. They are coming across the border, and many of these drugs come from China, and they can be sent through uh, these, UPS kind of services in envelopes, either through that, or by boat to the American borders. Then there is a supply network, and
Mhm.
it's illegal. So you are a good guy, but somehow you've gotten addicted, right? Because you're depressed or whatever. And then you order, and then this one is tainted.
Mhm.
Some of uh, your supplies are not good. There's no control. And you take it and you die. That doesn't mean that you are really wanting to die, but the whole system is such that ultimately a lot of people end up dying. Now, of course, cities like San Francisco, they also, those who are addicted, they have systems in place so that you can get your drug shot every evening. But that doesn't seem to have helped matters. It only becomes a magnet for the drug addicted, to come and live in those cities and do all kinds of horrible things. First of all, you're living on the street, then you do other petty crime. Some of these people even kill, once you need money. So it's a kind of a very dystopian, negative picture of what's going to happen.
So I remember that I started my career, like after my graduation, started my career in Philadelphia a long time back. And then I used to, I was just graduated. I didn't have a car. So I used to travel by bus and train, SEPTA. So then I used to go to 30th Street Station and then go to New Jersey. So everyone told that if you're coming, if you miss your train and you're coming late from work, then always go in the crowd and always keep dollars, because somebody might come and tell you something and just give them $1 and they'll go away. And even in Colorado, I've seen that drugs are, you go to any concert, they are legal. Like you can see people, like you can only smell because you're not taking it, so you can smell it everywhere.
See, so basically what has happened is with prosperity has come new problems, and that will become worse because, in the past, you had to work hard, or men had to work hard, and that kept their mind off things like drugs, right? Or well, even amongst poor communities, people got addicted to alcohol, and sometimes this alcohol used to be bad. And even in India, sometimes in villages, 60 or 80 people suddenly die because the alcohol supply they got, illegal one, was full of some toxin, right? So, but there is a very interesting study which was done many years ago, 50, 60 years ago, where what they did was they put these rats in a cage, in a huge cage with a lot of residences, their own places where they could live, and their population multiplied. Now, they had food, as much of food the rats wanted was available. So the population shot up over many generations. But after that, somehow the rats lost interest in living, and they lost interest even in mating with each other. And then eventually, this 3 or 4 thousand population, it all died. Every individual died. So it's possible that something similar may be at work in human societies. If you don't have to work for food, you become depressed, clinically depressed. And that's one reason, for example, why people don't even want to talk to others, right? Or either the other gender, or even your own. If you don't have to work, if there's no challenge in life, that's what creates depression. That's what happened to this rat colony, this famous study. So because normally rats have to work very hard. First of all, humans are trying to kill them, right, in their homes, and there's poison, there's these traps or whatever. They have to burrow wherever they can, and they have to find food, break into um, wherever, sacks of food or whatever. If there's no challenge, at some point people give up. So this is another reason why the world population could actually collapse. And in fact, there is a famous study, I think from Denmark, which says that in 2200, maybe the world population will be only 200 million. And 200 million is the population maybe of the larger Delhi national national capital region is probably 50 million. Multiply by that 4. Imagine all of Earth having only 4 times the population, related near Delhi and its environments. And according to this estimate, in 2300, the whole world population will be only 100 million. And 100 million is a very small number. So all that can happen. It might appear impossible, given that current population is 8 billion, but it could happen. It could happen because we are witnessing something unique in world history. Unique because food is plenty, uh, computers and machines and robots are going to be doing all work. You don't have any jobs. You don't have any jobs. And raising children is tough. So people are husbands and wives. They're saying, well, we're not going to raise children. All kids are the same. We look at kids elsewhere. So why do we have to? It's so tough. And in America, if you don't have a very high paying job, it could cost you 30, 40, $50,000 just for daycare, especially in big cities. In big cities like Miami, it could cost you 100,000. If your salary is 30,000, your wife's salary is 30,000, you can't do it. So even if you want to have children, you can't. And then women are highly educated, and slowly years pass. Now they're in their 30s, they just can't find men. So that's another reason. It's not that everybody doesn't want children, but there are many complex factors that are leading to this fertility drop collapse. And it has happened. countries like Spain and Italy, many houses, 10-15% of all the houses are empty. Villages have been emptied out. And there in Spain, I think they even have a scheme that if you just pay $1 and if you promise to live in this house, they give it to you. Or you can buy an entire village, which is an empty village, for yourself and your family. But there are no takers, because why would you go to a place if you don't have a job, right? What would you do?
Yeah. Mm. Okay, but one good thing will be there if the population drops, there'll be less pollution and and then the earth will become better. It'll breathe better. There'll be more trees and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people live their lives becoming activists for climate action, uh, sort of not blocking roads that we have to protect climate. Well, if the population collapse, you don't have to, as you're correctly saying, we will not be putting all these pollutants. Then what will these people who are fighting for climate justice, they would have lost the purpose of their lives, right? What would they fight for? There would be nothing to fight for, The whole places will empty out. People will only live in places where the climate is good. But even there, with addiction, etc., look at California, the climate is beautiful, but now you have a lot of criminals there. And they can also, and just look at the big cities in the US. You are walking, you're a woman, you're walking, and suddenly somebody smacks you on your face. You must have seen a lot of those clips. And so there is mentally ill people on the streets. Many of these drug addicts are also mentally ill. So what you have to do is to take them off the streets, but there is no political will at this point to take people off the streets, in at least the US. Now, in countries like India, there is also a lot of crime. There are there's different kinds of crime. But at least in India, people also have a tradition related to uh, spirituality. Now, whether one believes in that or not, it provides you an anchor. While in the US, religion is almost gone. People don't believe in religion anyway. Most people don't.
Mostly
Or
woke.
in Europe.
But,
Yeah, wokeism.
but I've seen they were very much attracted to yoga and meditation, even though the
Right, but those are the good ones amongst them.
yeah.
The other wokists, they don't believe in anything. They only believe in, you know, fighting for their activist cause, or I don't know what. So these wokists, they're sort of crazy. They believe in, okay, I'll tell you what they believe in. They believe there are 54 genders, and I can change my gender from
Yeah.
morning to night. And in fact, wokists are so strong in Germany just passed a law that once every year you can change your gender officially on your documents. So if this year you're male, next year you're female,
What are you
or
achieving by
otherwise.
that?
It's madness. This is a different kind of madness. There are some mentally ill people who are doing crime on the streets, right? Or who are into drugs. But there are some other mentally ill people who are into some strange fantasies about what life is about or about what gender is. And they are politically very strong right now because in colleges, there is support for them. Colleges and universities of the West, there is support for them.
Okay, all right. I just want to ask this: how can you relate the ancient Indian wisdom with modern science? Which means, like, in a layman's term, can you pick out some of artificial intelligence in ancient Indian? Like, you can pick from Mahabharata, you can pick from Ramayana, or anything. Maybe not this. Like, how was there any artificial intelligence back then? And can you give some examples?
Well, one side to AI is to create machines which are conscious, computers which are conscious. And some people believe that computers will become conscious. But in reality, there are new scientific results which say that computers will never become conscious. So consciousness is something apart from the body. And that is the heart of ancient Indian wisdom. What ancient Indian wisdom, the yoga tradition or the Vedic tradition, yoga is a part of the Vedic tradition, said that your Atma, which is consciousness, is apart from your body. And all knowledge comes from Atma. So that's where ancient Indian wisdom is relevant. And that's why the rishis, because they were connected to this light of the Atma within them, were able to see things which would not otherwise appear credible. You know, how could somebody 3,000 years ago have said such and such stuff?
Mhm.
But apparently, if you are connected to the light of consciousness, consciousness is like a light, then you can access extraordinary knowledge. And I think that is the significance of India. That's why there are a lot of people, even in the West, you know, good people in the West, who say that, look, this whole following the path of AI to solve problems is going to end up in tragedy,
Mm.
tragedy at the personal level and at the collective level for countries.
Mhm.
And so you have to look at deeper issues. And I personally agree with that. You have to look at universal wisdom related to consciousness. And it's certainly true. In fact, I proved a theorem on this just a few months ago, mathematical theorem, that consciousness is not material. If consciousness is not material, then humans don't have to only think about their body and only drugs. There is something more also to live for. And that is the pathway to meaning in life.
Mhm.
So, in my view, because of this, Indian wisdom is going to truly become central to the world, because without that wisdom, just like this rat colony, who at some point said, we don't want to food because the food was constantly available, they said, we are rather going to die, all of them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It was an amazing session. Do you have anything to say to my viewers of the Atman Show before I let you go?
I would tell your viewers, because the very name of your show is Atman or Atma. Look, follow this path of the Atma, follow this wisdom. And one of the greatest books on this is, of course, the Bhagavad Gita, you know, where Krishna gives such an amazing teaching, and the Upanishads. I think truly, as one of the German philosophers said, I forget his name, Schopenhauer or somebody, he said, look, one thing that gives me comfort is the wisdom of the Upanishads.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, if you think you're only bodies and bodies are going to age, beauty is going to fade,
Yeah.
that's not permanent. That leads to unhappiness.
Mhm.
And I think this is the time you viewers of the Atman show is to be dedicated to this amazing, extraordinary wisdom that we have from Bharat.
Okay. Thank you. Bye. Namaste.
Namaste.